Okay, this is Brendan, and doing a little warm-up drawing today. At the end of the previous video, well, that's weird. I wasn't even expecting that. I know what this is though. It's kind of cool how that does that. I figured these out yesterday. If you play with these things up here, you got to make you draw in like patterns. That might actually come in useful someday. Whoa, that's like really cool. Okay, let me see if I can figure out. You know what I did before I started drawing? I hit the Q key. I didn't mean to, and that's when that started happening. It's still doing it. Okay, what if I tap the Q key again? Oh, symmetry over here. I don't want this symmetry. Can I go to normal? Whoa, that's cool though. All right. Oh yeah. Now, if I just go back to the brush, then I'm in normal mode. Okay. Anyway, that's yeah, symmetry. If you play with these things up here, you can get those symmetrical effects going on. I guess that's another feature of Krita, which I haven't really gotten into yet. But at the end of the last video, like I keep trying to say, there was I was talking about something like doing something. Yeah, fill entire selection. About perspective and stuff like this, and then I decided that I'm not going to do that right now because I haven't even been able to draw anything for about a couple weeks. I got super busy, and so I got to just got to get back into it. And in times like this, you just got to do some warm-up sketches sometimes. So that's what we're going to do. Flip the canvas back and forth sometimes like this. Helps to give you some evenness. What'll happen is me personally, and I know this happens to a lot of people, you can tell when you're looking at art. My hand, I'm left-handed, and I tend to feel comfortable making, slants like this. As you can see, they come out relatively smooth. But if I start going like this way, it might be a little rough on the edges because it's just a different way that your hand cannot move in these perfect 360 to 5 degree angles or anything. So sometimes flipping the canvas, it helps to give you more of an even, natural, balanced kind of flow to things. So you can flip back and forth and get different kind of curves coming in both directions. What I'm doing here is just laying down some maybe kind of like distant ground, or the mountains are just rolling a little bit. So in the distance, you'll see a lot more grooves and curves, and as you come up closer, these little mounds get bigger, and so it kind of, represents perspective. So right here, if I were to draw a tree right here, and the thing about trees is they're usually pretty big, so I always tend to go off the page, depending on how big your current area is. But with let's just imagine there's some leaves coming around this way, so it looks a little bit like a tree. Maybe some branches and stuff. And then if you go off in the distance, if you see this, if you can imagine this line here goes off to the distance, and at the top of the tree we're like up here somewhere, so another line would come down this way. If there were another tree this far away, then you can make a box right here and say that tree should be about that big. But I'm not going to leave all those lines there right now. Do I have this layer worked out right? Let me see if yeah, that's right. So I want this layer to have a transparent background. So if there were another tree back here, it would be about yay high. And it doesn't have to be the same tree. It would be a totally different one. It should be skinnier, something like that. So if you go further off in the distance, they get even smaller, like this. And you just have, you get smaller and smaller back there. I'm not doing like a forest here. There's just a random tree here, random tree there. And these are weird trees. You see they all seem to have the same kind of like three, kind of like a pitchfork thing coming up. Maybe it's a certain breed of tree that just happens to do that. Usually most trees that you look at, they're all kind of random. They can have their branches going in any which way, and there's no, it's almost as if there's no predicting it. I'm not sure if there are some trees that follow a certain trend. From my memory, I don't seem to recall ever seeing a tree like that. But maybe is there some kind of trees that they always split off into two branches, Because sometimes you get trees, they seem to split off into like 2 branches. Sometimes it'll split off into 3 main branches and then variations from there. It always seems to be kind of random. One thing I know is it does have a lot to do with the sunlight and their environment. If a tree's getting more sunlight on one particular side, that side will start to grow out more. It's just about where can it grow is basically what it boils down to. If it has the ability to get the sunlight it needs, then it'll grow in all directions. Otherwise, well, it won't grow at all, I guess. So yeah, it's a warm-up video. What I was doing is I was thinking about what can I do for warm-up video, and I started thinking, well, there's a game I've been working on, and so there's a lot of characters in that game that I haven't really drawn out. The thing is, the game doesn't really intend to be a graphically intense game. It's kind of like two-dimensional. It's not one of those 3D games. It's a bird's eye view, and there's just flat drawings, basically, two-dimensional characters. There's no perspective or 3D into it. However, that doesn't mean that I can't utilize some nice sketches of the characters in the game. There's this one character with a big head, and he looks kind of like a lion. Has a mane around him. So I'll try and draw him out here. He has big eyes and a nose like a regular animal nose, kind of like a lion or a dog. They all have the same kind of nose that comes down into, and it breaks into these 2 parts right here. I'm sure there's a scientific name for that, but I don't know what it is. So I could have even started drawing him on a separate layer, but I didn't, so this is what's going to happen. So here's his eyes right here. This is all rough sketch. And that like I said, that animal-like mouth, it could come down into a beard. Maybe it's windy, and so his mane is kind of like blowing off in the wind this way. And the regular body. The thing about this character, it's supposed to be able to be rather intelligent. Maybe like, imagine an animal that's as smart as a dog or a cat. That means, you know, they can kind of communicate with people and follow some orders, but also actually even a little bit more intelligent than that. The ability to follow orders and to help the main character of the game to do things. But a part of that, in order to make him useful and interesting in the game, is that he should, or it should, the animal should be able to have hands or some intelligent way of like carrying things around, moving things. So now this character becomes a useful utility in the game where you can give him directions to help you go do stuff. So it's got basically looks like a lion, but with a goofy kind of friendly face. And yeah, my imagination isn't really doing me justice here. Not my imagination. My imagination actually has gone haywire on this. It's gone crazy, having a field day. It's my creativity which is lacking on how to make him look like a creature, but at the same time maybe have kind of like opposable thumbs or something, like hands, without looking too weird also. So maybe it's basically like a lion with hand-like hands instead of paws. How do you say hand-like hands? They're just hands, I guess. But he can have some fingers. So it'd be kind of like maybe like a dragon. Dragon has his long claws, or like like a bird's claws here. So he can still handle rough terrain. They're strong paw-like hands, limbs, but at the same time he can also carry things with it. Maybe he could carry. He's smart enough that you could equip him with a backpack or something. And this is kind of silly the way I'm drawing this out. It's just a rough sketch. I'm not really thinking about good perspective and anatomy or anything. There's a little bit in there. I am thinking about the bone structure and how, you know, his rib cage will come around here. His arms. You have you know, on any animal, or just about all of them, you have on the back, what do they call that area? Actually, no, there's like the shoulder blades is the word I was looking for. Yeah, shoulder blades, and you can see on animals, especially when they're skinny, whether it be a lion or an elephant or whatever, they have, you know, you can see their prominent shoulder blades coming out, and that helps to support the strength of their upper arms here, which need to be very powerful to hold their bodies up and move fast. So that's kind of like that. I guess his other paw is back here. I'll just do some shading, make suggestions of hands and stuff. I didn't really want him to look just like a lion. He has a name. I actually called him Four Legs, because that's basically the foundation for me. He has 4 legs. I didn't really know. Didn't really have any creativity for that. I didn't see any need for it. If he's 4 legs, he's just 4 legs. That's what he is. He has 4 legs. That's that. Now to make him unique, because like I said, I don't want him to look just like a, you know, a goofy lion or anything. So I'm kind of happy with the body. He's got a not so long tail, short tail, and the mane that comes up around here. I'm just trying to erase some of this background stuff. I should have put him on his own layer. What about the eyes? Maybe you could have, instead of, should you have like lizard eyes or something? To make him kind of scary looking. Which is okay, because the character, he's supposed to be a neutral character. I did want the player to kind of keep on their toes with this 4 legs guy. I don't want them to instantly trust him. Maybe he could be an enemy as well. And maybe he could be a friend. We're not quite sure about that. You flip this around, see how it looks. Yeah, see, even here you can see, I do this all the time. We're getting sort of a slant this way on everything I do. There's a slight slant over here, here. Everything has that slant to it. And what that is, it's just sheer laziness in my body. You know, I'm not a lazy person. I'm working hard. I'm doing my best. But as I sit here, my method of holding the pen or the pencil, this Wacom digital device, the way that I hold it is not necessarily, it's just how I hold the pen. I don't use very good technique. That's something like a fundamental part of drawing that I never really got into. I did used to use, you know, some fancy like pen holding or pencil holding techniques, and you know, I'd be holding it by the base and doing different things. Which way is the wind going? Oh yeah, this way. So this should go over that way. Yeah. It's windy. But then, yeah, as time goes on, I don't know why, I default back to this pencil gripping kind of way, and my hand gets lazy, and that's just how it is. But it's nice that I don't have to worry about that too much, because we have the ability to flip it back and forth like this, so I can balance it out. If I were drawing on paper, it'd be different too. That's the other thing. Like, I don't really mean to make excuses. The thing is, if I'm drawing on paper, I can turn the paper around, move it this way and that way. With a Wacom tablet, I'm not getting that. I mean, technically speaking, I can do that, but it just doesn't seem to work for me. I'm not using one of those tablets where you can actually see on the tablet itself where you're drawing at, so it's almost like I'm doing things kind of blindly here. I normally don't really like doing cat's eyes like that, because I don't know, like, I personally like them. It's just, I found a lot of people tend to get freaked out by them. Some people just get freaked out by cat's eyes, and so sometimes I try to avoid stuff like that. There's a designer in me that wants to you know, try and please all parties, make it look good, but when you're getting creative like this, you can't make everyone happy, really. If it's supposed to be scary, well then so be it. It's scary. Just got to deal with it. So I'm going to stick with a cat's eyes for now until something better comes up. Did a very mediocre job there on the symmetry and the perspective on his eyes, but I'm not worried about that at the moment. This is more of a design phase, sketch phase, and just warming up here. Try and make some things different from... Actually, I think this is part of it. He has... this is not the first sketch I've done of this guy. He has like a mustache. That's another thing to make him different from the stereotypical old-fashioned lion image. I want to get away from that because it's kind of an alien terrain that they're supposed to be on. Make you feel like you're somewhere else. And what happens in the game is you start off with, it's a survival game, which can lead into an adventure game as well. So you start off in this random alien terrain, and you have to survive and figure out what to do, where to go, and well, just how to stay alive at first. And then when you get more comfortable with your environment and you figure out how to survive, then you can start exploring the area, and you'll find some surprises along the way. It's like a mustache lion cat hand dude with dragon paws. Very strange. Maybe I put another hand on his tail just to, bury it. Put the nail in the coffin of strangeness. But I'm not going to do that. That's a little too weird. Sometimes you have some crazy ideas and they're funny and interesting, but you don't really want to put them to use in an actual game or illustration because they'll just... It doesn't really fit the purpose. It's not that you can't do it, but the purpose in this situation, there was a goal, and that goal is to make an entertaining game. Well, if everything is like too freaky, that's, that wasn't my point. I wasn't trying to freak people out and expand their, horizons of thought on character design. I was just trying to make a fun game. So doing something too weird would actually create a diversion from the actual goal of the game and make it difficult to play and difficult to understand. That'll confuse the player. So I'm not going to do that. Okay, just like this. Yeah, it's kind of that Bela Lugosi hairline there, which is the original vampire Dracula. And Bela Lugosi was the actor, I think, who played him in the old black and white movie. Alright, so there's that character. I'm going to take a quick break and, let my imagination storm up some new ideas on this. I'll be right back. Okay, and so something else with this this drawing here. The idea behind it was to express the environment, and the character is just a bonus, I guess. And there's another character, it's kind of like a dragon, but more like a snake. And so I wonder if he'll even fit in here. He'd be far off in the background like this. And this character also has a weird kind of face to him. First I'll try and do this snake-like body. He tends to coil up a lot, and sometimes even coils up over, he'll coil up and only take up one block of space. He can go from being like 5 or 6 blocks of space long, or coil up and just take up one block of space. And I guess he's right behind that tree. He also has a big face. He's going off into the distance there. And since he's big, his head will almost be the same size as the forelegs guy up here, but he's far off. So, yeah, basically what we're saying is his head is 2 or 3 times bigger than this guy's head because he's off in the distance where it gets smaller. And this is definitely a menacing character. So I want to think about how to bring that out. Maybe with the eyes. It comes down with he has a mean streak to him and some design. I already did start to design this character in the game, but I didn't really bring it out yet into any kind of detail, because what I had to do was just yeah, he has a menacing kind of smile. What I had to do was just fill in some space so I could program the actual movements of the character. So I drew a little something in there. I think he has horns. It's kind of like an Asian look to it. And what he does is, when you get far enough in the game, he just comes out of nowhere. He just spawns, manifests, and he will start terrorizing the entire environment if you don't do something about it. So it adds a bit of a challenge to the game. At first you're just doing survival, and then you move on to you know, some battle, some exploration and discovery. I want a lot of that to be, how to say, kind of like a surprise. So, you know, it would kind of ruin it if I were to tell you too much about it, but, you know, just telling you this part of it, hopefully it would only be one minor thing, because there's going to be a lot of surprises along the way. Forelegs should be there right in the beginning. And this character comes in a bit later. He'd be like one of the first surprises that I can give away, and then you'd find a bunch of other stuff. Okay. And I just wanted to add a little bit of depth to this drawing. Add a little bit of depth to it, so you can get a feeling of the space and the terrain. Let me see if this goes around that way. I guess it'll come up over here. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So let's see if we have that character's back there. We could have another character over here maybe. And this is the foreground. It goes off in the background. I just feel like the way that this ends off in the background there is not, it's not very realistic. There should be something like mountainous slopes back there, because you never really have perfectly flat land so far off into the distance. Yeah, this will come up a little bit higher. Maybe there could be some tall structures off in the distance. I think that can happen in the game as well. Actually, the way it is now, it's very flat. It's bird's eye view, like I was saying before, and you don't really build up. You just kind of stay on one level. But for the sake of making this drawing a little more entertaining, I can draw these kind of things. Just have some structures off in the background. Right, so from a distance you get the feeling that there's some land that goes off into the background there. Fill in these trees a bit more. And as you go off, there should be more and more trees as you go off into the distance. I mean, there might actually not be enough room for another character, because the terrain is randomized. What happens is you just get sparse trees around here and there, and the trees are, it's not even really trees, just like vegetation. I was actually contemplating that, how should that work. Maybe there should be trees which you cannot walk through. The way it is now, basically you can walk on any of the tiles in the game. It's a tile-based game, I guess is what I should say. Just square tiles. And so it would be good, it would be interesting, I guess, if I could have this kind of you know, these dynamics to the game where you have like trees that need to be chopped down, such as in other a lot of other survival games like Minecraft, and I see a new one just came out called Rust, and they do the same thing. I like these kind of games. They also have one called, one that really is a survival game, because it's just so hard to survive. That one was called Don't Starve. That's what it's called. That game, I actually got frustrated with it and stopped playing it. I'm not sure if I want to play anymore. I just couldn't stay alive. I could get up to winter. You start off in like spring or summer, and I could always make it up to winter, and then I would just die. And it got to a point where it wasn't even really fun. It was like I wanted it, my goal, my personal goal was to see if I could just make it through a winter into the next spring or summer season, and that never happened. It gets really hard to live through a winter. And it's not like I'm not at all a quitter. I hate to have that kind of attitude where I just say, forget it, it's too hard. But it was just kind of unrealistic. It was too tedious to the point that it wasn't even fun for me anymore. And I'm not trying to disrespect the game. It's a really well done game. But to have spent so much time, we're talking about hours, to get through this game just to get to that winter part, and then to watch myself die again and again every time I get there, trying new strategies each time. And even as you try to figure out new strategies, well, it changes every time because the dynamics of the game, the way that it randomizes the terrain, it's a new challenge in itself each time you play it. So it was really just way too frustrating by the time I got to that stage where I kept dying every time, and actually kind of ruined the fun. Put some texture onto the snake-like body here. Give him sort of scales. Here's a situation where I really wish I could turn the paper around. You can do that on this. They have buttons for it, but I can actually spin the canvas around, but I just think that's kind of weird. Doesn't really work the way I want it to. So I'll just do this for now. That's that. I think that's all. I mean, that's the foundation right there. There's no real composition in this drawing. It's just random. Here's this guy back there. That's another thing I thought was interesting. As I do a lot of drawing, I do this a lot, especially when I'm in this mode of, like I said, it's just a warm-up sketch. I'm just, fiddling around, having some fun. I don't really like to worry about so much of what is the main attraction here and leading the viewer's eye around the page, as they say you should do with composition. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I don't. I don't like to worry about that stuff all the time. Problem is here, I guess there's kind of a philosophical thought I have about that. It's just that you don't really have to follow all these rules all the time. It's basically my personal feeling on that. And I think that if you do that, if you just follow the same rules all the time, you're going to lose out on an experience, and you're not going to find new things. You just got to loosen up sometimes. And if you think about writing, storytelling, and things like that, sometimes you can have a storyline that just goes perfectly straight from the beginning to the end of the story. And then some books and literature, they'll kind of randomly go back and forth in time. And it can give you, you can do, it's like a tool. It's a different way of expression. You can express the story in a different way that way. Same thing happens, I think, with this type of illustration, where you don't have to be exactly the same every time. Maybe there's some kind of like existentialism or just a dynamic feeling that comes out by getting this random scene where nothing's really happening, right? It doesn't have to be the quintessential scene of some climax scene of the action and all that stuff. It's just a random scene. You're just there in this place, and this is just what happened to be going on at the time. I like that. I like that a lot. It's something that I actually want to capture in my drawings. I want it to feel like you're suddenly just there, and there wasn't anything special going on at the time. You're just there. This is what was happening. It's a slice of life kind of feeling. A lot of people don't get that. They think that every drawing, every picture has to depict the ultimate, the zen, the climax, and stimulate the viewer and all this stuff. Well, you can do that. It sounds good for business, I guess, but you can also choose to not do that sometimes, and just relax, have some fun, and give a unique and original feeling to the viewer. Let them know that this is just a random thing that happens to be going on. There's nothing really important about it. So, yeah, I'm not necessarily happy with the composition here, but that's okay. I didn't want to worry about that. Just scribbling some random characters. There's a lot of problems in this, although I did lay down the foundation for some perspective, distance, and depth and stuff, but there's a lot of problems in here. What I'm going to do now is just try and figure out what those problems are. Bring this back to, I played around and I got goofy with it and got random, and now I have to tighten it up a little and try and come back to reality and see if I can find my depth and perspective and anatomy and stuff on these characters. So I'm going to take a break while I'm thinking about that. And I'm not sure if I'll come back and finish this video. I might actually just end it here. I'm going to get rid of this tree because it's kind of blocking his face. Might put another tree over here. Yeah, I think actually I'll just I'm going to take an extended break, but I will finish this off by just adding another tree right here. So I think this is going to help to kind of finish it off. Yeah, something like that. That way it feels a little more, just feels a bit more balanced, because you had trees randomly placed all over the place here, and then suddenly there was no tree over there. Something like that. Like I was saying, it's not to be an award-winning drawing, nothing fancy, just doodling, sketching around. Yeah. And I could do a lot of like details with the fur and stuff. If I wanted it to go just like semi-professional or something, to be like a completed illustration, then what I would do at this point is just keep working on the details and make it feel like it's finished. So as opposed to just being a rough sketch, you can tell that somebody actually put some time into it and cared for all the details. It's good enough. It's cartoony, a little childish, but still has all the all the general sense of perspective and anatomy and a sense of space and stuff. So yeah, I'm just going to leave this one here. I might come back in another video and get into color and stuff. Not quite sure. This was just a little fun with sketching some random environments, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.